webinar that I do once a month. If you're not familiar, well, first of all, my name is Ryan Wilday. I've been doing this work since 2017. I lead Crypto Waves, which is part of the ElliottWaveTrader services on ElliottWaveTrader.net. You can check us out. We do free trials without credit cards, so if you're interested, that's about as much marketing you get for me, but I do these once a month, and these are a week. This is a version of what I do weekly with subscribers who are part of the service. And then I have Jason Apples, the co-lead of the service as well. So we'll go through, what we'll do today is go through Bitcoin, Ether. I've got 6 setups that I'm looking at this week. I'll share them with you. First of all, a couple things. One, this is not financial advice. I think also just to understand, I am a trader. I have stops. Anything I say here will have a level where I invalidate my trade and get out. So if you're not part of the service, I will give you the levels here today for the trades I'm looking for this week. You better believe if they are breached, the next month, I'm not still bullish on it. I make my living doing this by managing risk. A lot of folks, out there in the Twitter space don't understand how to manage risk. So they will pump something with their words and not manage it when they are underwater on it. And so I teach otherwise, I do otherwise. So understand the levels I give are where my view changes. You're not going to get a report out from me on Twitter. I run a trading room every day and don't have time to go out to Twitter to redact my trades that have been invalidated. That said, I get enough right too, and you manage risk so that when you get a runner, the runner runs and the losers don't run your account into the ground, right? That's how trading works. So just note that, please. As usual, I'm not taking any requests in the public webinar. That is the purview of paid subscribers on our weekly webinars, but I am giving you 6 setups that I like. You can ask me about something, and if I know offhand my opinion, sure. I'm not pulling out any new charts if it's not already on the plan. So keep all those things in mind. Also, I have to leave very quickly after this webinar, so for those on ElliottWaveTrader and the service itself, the video is going to be late today. I don't have time, plus charts too. I just don't have time this morning. And then it'll get out to Twitter too at the same time, so it'll be later this evening. So I'll do that. So just look for that. But sorry for the delay. And then also for paid subscribers, on Tuesday, my son's birthday. We are going snowboarding. So I'm going to take the day off the market on the 23rd. There will not be a nightly report that night either. So we are going snowboarding. We got our first season snow out here in Washington after the floods, which, man, got close because I live by the river, the Puyallup River, but I still had 25 feet on it, but there was a levee broken about a quarter mile down the river. So it got a little hairy over the last couple weeks. All right, well, welcome. Let's get going. So I got record on, we're good. Okay, so Bitcoin, again, for those that know my work, 2021, I was looking for a top in this cycle at 125. Very conservative compared to a heck of a lot of people out there, right? So far, that has held, right? I have said that there's a chance it could stretch even to 195, but 125 was my nominal target. 126K, that's pretty good work, right? Has it topped? As I have said in previous webinars, I need 74,500 to confirm. But that said, most of my Bitcoin came off, at least the swing trade stuff, not the stuff in the cold wallet that I plan to hold forever. But the swing trading, came off at 108. I never picked the tops in terms of my trading. I get close. I could have been a lot closer if I believe my analysis so far to the tick. But hey, that's trading. I gotta manage risk, and that means sometimes getting off a little early when I saw things as shaky. Also, I did some profit taking at 50K, to be fair too. I think some of you guys remember that back in the day, but the bulk of it came off at 108. So I'm a little bit long of late in the swing trade accounts because we've hit a tradable low, but not aggressively long at all. I'm by and large of the opinion that we are in a bear market, but an opinion is nothing compared to the market price action wise taking out key level, which is 75,500. Okay, so you got my leaning. I lean that we're in a bear market. We're in for it for a year or two at least before a sizable rally. That doesn't mean we can't trade some rallies. In fact, I'm going to go over a setup in Bitcoin for long side, but it's very short term because this market is, in my opinion, again, my opinion versus confirmation is that we are in a bear market. And man, what a sad market for altcoins for sure. And I have to say, like, even my altcoin trades really didn't do well, but I always primarily trade Bitcoin anyway, so I got out on cycle in pretty good shape. So let's jump in. So let's again, questions whether this top is the top. I haven't marked it as the top yet. You can see my label here, but we break 7,500. It's going to be confirmed, and on top of that, we have a corrective rally off this low. I've heard some people say, everyone thinks it's a corrective rally, so it must not be, or whatever. No, it is a corrective rally. The structure is confirmed as corrective. Can it morph into a diagonal? Sure. Already looks improbable. Okay, so this rally is stuck under 96K in my view. If it breaches that, then something else is at play, but most likely it's this red B if the case. And that's even worse because the C is a lot farther down than the fifth wave. What I'm marking here again, 96K is the resistance for this fourth wave. So it's sort of worse if it breaks over 96K in context, given that this rally is confirmed corrective. And I'm just talking about it structurally. So kind of crazy, I see, I've listened to podcasts in the crypto space. I almost am ready to desubscribe from most podcasts. I'm very interested in some of them, but they're all complacent. They all are saying buy the dip. If you have I know some players out there that are somewhat bearish, but most of them are like buy the dip, buy the dip, buy the dip, buy the dip, buy the dip. And yeah, I bought the dip, but I'm buying in a corrective rally, like to get out very quick. So very different in terms of what I'm saying. Most of those folks are saying buy for the all-time highs, which is which is kind of scary if they're wrong, because a lot of people are gonna get screwed. If they're right, great. I'll have to adjust my positioning, but I have a lot more leeway down here, as I believe most people should if they had subscribed to my view at all. All right. Jumping in, I'll go through the Bitcoin setup here, which is on the setup section, and I'm calling one on Ether too, even though I'm not trading it, but I'll give it to you anyway. But in Bitcoin, the setup that I'm trading right now is that this is a tradable low that should take us close to 96K at least. And then I have support here at 85,450, rounding it off. That's 786 retrace of this potential wave one. It looks pretty good. It looks like we'll get another dip into it. Again, disclosure, I am already long this setup with a partial position. I have orders down lower. I'm using perps to trade this with I traded spot on the low back here, which a lot of that's underwater right now. And because I got it kind of high, pretty terrible location. But this I'm trading with perps, and I have a couple tranches of perp orders. Maybe someone who's in the service remembers where they're at. I don't remember where they're at. I didn't write everything down for this, but they're sitting on Coinbase perp trade right now. And it's in this box, roughly comparable perps to spot. And again, 80 for trading spot, 85,450 is what I have. This is a global average, so it can vary by exchange slightly. I think it's best to have, if you're not doing aggressive trades in perps, you're doing spot, I think it's best to have a stop below at the low. Personally, if that breaks, we should be heading to 72, at least 7,500, but it looks like we got a fourth and fifth all the way to 72,000. So I believe it'll go there anyway, but it should visit 96K as long as this setup holds. So you just understand the roadmap. It's up and then down, or breaks 85,550 and it's direct down. Although this structure is incredibly sloppy for a direct move, to believe that, I definitely prefer, even though it's sitting in red, I definitely prefer that detour. Now, I was primary, by the way, for those that are not subscribed, I was primary looking for 72,000 in this move down. It ended up being very sloppy, and then it formed a potential Not the greatest setup, but a potential long setup, which we're trading now. So just giving you kind of a roadmap of past to present. I had to change my view, at least flip my alternate and primary view as of yesterday with this setup that had formed overnight on Thursday evening. All right, so that's where we're at with Bitcoin. You know, just to go, I'll come back for questions, but again, just to talk about where I'm at. 75,500 confirms a bear market in my view. I already lean that it is, but again, leaning versus having a confirmation is two different things. I don't trade confirmation levels, by the way. Remember, I have said in previous public webinars that I don't want to suffer a 30% decline to know that it's a bear market. So I took most of my Bitcoin off, all of my swing Bitcoin off at 108. In fact, we did catch a short on the way down in the service as well. It wasn't a big position for me, so it's not like I got rich off that short, but now started forming, you know, these are tradable lows down here for very short term, because again, my leaning is 7,200, and I don't know, B waves don't have good targets until we have more structure. Could get up to 100. You know, a lot of people take the perspective of the 60 or it was a 50-week average, which is around 103 right now to 100. So that someone has said recently that it often retests that would be in that 100 region. So that may be where our B wave goes, and then it's bye-bye. I don't have my monthly chart caught up, but the support levels for the next move down would be 50 to 70. Sorry, no, actually, if it's the red B wave, it's got to be 55 all the way down to potentially 30 if we get extensions. I would be surprised if we get that low on this move. I do expect if we are in a large degree bear market that we eventually will test 30. It just may not be this year or even in the next year, 2026. It may be off in the future. There can be, again, you know, in this bear market coming if it continues to develop, again, if it continues to develop, I do see rallies up to 225, but I still will call it a bear market from an Elliott perspective because it will largely be a long range bound rate move for 5 years or so with this range of potentially 10K on the low end. And I'm not saying that's predictive target. I'm just saying it could be 10K on the low end. Could be 3K, but I doubt it. 10K on the low end, up to 225 on the high end, but ranging between that for many years is what I expect, basically. If it's the high degree bear market that I've talked about. The alternative is that it holds 50 to 30 and then blows through, and then if it blows through 225 impulsively, it should go to 1 million. So those are some things looking out. But again, the problem is we sit here and we think about these juicy targets, and we know that Bitcoin, you know, suffers 50% to 70% losses in bear markets, you know, very normal, right? And sitting here waiting for confirmation, I don't suffer it, at least not with all of my position. When I have enough of a top come in, I at least want to cut back because I'm not about to suffer 50%. You know, I have to do this for a living. You know, if you have a more of a, you know, daily, you know, weekly paycheck, then you're in a different situation and you can maybe suffer some losses. I won't suffer it. I also have to teach trading, so I have to be better than that. So again, I've gone largely flat until recently, and then, I've also even been trading short-term short here and there. So I'm kind of all over the place right now, which is natural in a bear market since it's pretty whippy, going up and down all the time. And again, bear market rallies can be quite strong, sometimes stronger than bull market rallies. All right, so that's where we're at. If I probably garbled some of that, so if there's any questions, I'll come back to questions after I hit Ether. And, again, as you guys know, they've been in this public webinar, people that are subscribed, all of that. You know that there's a big miss here. I was looking for 10.5 in Ether, and I'm not terribly surprised it missed because the Ether long-term chart's pretty janky, in my words. Very tough to track long-term. It often gets a big redo, where Bitcoin's long-term chart is largely stayed intact with some extensions, really, versus weakness, where Ether has shown weakness. In the 2018 cycle, had some surprise weakness, topping in 3 waves, and here really not getting a strong enough 5th wave, barely a new all-time high out of this cycle, which is pretty sad. And now we have 5 down, or forming 5 down out of this top. There's a potential that it does find support at 1200 and does make a run. That would be comparable to Bitcoin. Actually, it's not very comparable structurally to Bitcoin, so I'll be surprised if it plays out. But even if that's the case, we get 5 down here, it should be a B and C, because when we get 5 down, it's the beginning of a move in this context. So we should get a B and C before we get any support in that region. So in that regard, it's similar, because it's somewhat similar to Bitcoin. Zooming in, again, just like Bitcoin, tradable rally, but corrective, and quite dangerous. Actually, I don't see any. Let's get a resistance level on here. So 96K is the resistance level in Bitcoin. It's 35.30 in Ether. I would have to see a strong move over that to think something else about this market. But zooming in, it does look like before we take a trip down to 2200s, let me move everything to the right, that is looking like it's out in the future. It does look like we will get a trip back to, at least now, today, a trip back to at least 3350, it looks like. Let me zoom in a little bit further. And support for this setup. I'm not trading this setup because I've got my hands full of Bitcoin and I'm trading with perps. I don't need to pile up risk, but if you would rather trade Ether, you can take the setup. Support is 280.30 for this setup, it's better in these 1-2 setups to actually use the low, just because sometimes you can get a breach below support and then run, and then you end up getting stopped out, and then you're sad because you use precise level. I don't do that. I tend to use the bottom, the low, unless I'm in perps, which I've got a little bit tighter stop. I think I got 85. So I recall 85 is my stop on the perps, which is this low, which gives me a little bit of room between support in case the spike low. If this low goes, it should go. I'm saying this low, but because Bitcoin has the same structure, has a low in the same spot. They're basically the same structure right now off of the recent low. So that's where we're at this setup. 2830 is ideally what it holds, but it could get a spike below it. So you can use 2775, this low, as a stop if you're doing spot, or you can use whatever this low is here if you are trading perps. You can do either or. I tend to get my perp trades a little bit tighter because I'm involving leverage and whatnot, managing risk a little tighter. So that's that. Let's see if there's any questions. Any especially folks coming on Twitter, especially folks that are seeing this for the first time. Some of you guys have not been in the past public webinars, or if you're coming in from ElliottWaveTrader's market service and haven't been in this before. Any questions from the past? I'm even happy with disagreements. Like, you want to challenge these ideas of bear market. Again, I don't have confirmation that it's bear market, but again, I lean that way. The action is very bearish. Even this rally, again, coming off of the recent low, is corrective. It's confirmed. I can't make an impulse out of it. I would have to be smoking something to do that. Yeah, so any comments, questions? No, you guys are quiet. Like, a lot of the it's interesting sentiment shift, because even subscribers on our Saturday webinars are not asking many questions, and I would like to think that's because everything's super clear, but I think that's not the case. I think generally people are shocked by the narrative out there months ago is, these treasury companies, sovereign wealth funds, all of that are going to keep buying Bitcoin, keep pushing it, not understanding how institutions actually trade, which is limit order, and tend not to move the market. They tend to avoid that unless they already have their position. And you can better believe it. I mean, Michael Saylor has been clear about how he trades with, at least it used to be Coinbase as his prime broker, and it was all limit order algos with a special attention to not move the market. And everyone then wonders why the market goes down when he's buying. It's because he's not pushing the market up when he's buying. And so that story and that narrative is hopefully now viewed as dead. And then not only that, but there's a bear market in MNAV, which, so I'm not just saying price is going down in these treasury companies, but the MNAV is going down, and some of it is negative now, which means buying the stock is better than buying Bitcoin, which basically turns off that strategy, basically kills that strategy, because it makes no sense. I mean, it's bad fiduciary responsibility expressed when you buy the asset versus buying your stock with that capital when your stock is actually below the value of the asset contained in your treasury. I mean, it's just bad use of capital. So it's interesting. So will they start buying the shares? We'll see, but that would be the right move if they're going to deploy more capital. All right, let's see. Do you think that it is okay to layer in on Bitcoin down or wait for the uptrend on BTC? Well, like I said, I mean, I was clear that crystal clear that I have a long on in perps and layering in in the support level that I called out. So your question is basically, I think I already clarified it, right? I already said what I'm doing. I don't know if you mean in the larger scale. Well, I'll for larger scale degree, I'll wait till we're there and see how we're getting into 72K. If you mean down here, like right now, I'm layering into this setup. That's not a very big trade. It's a small perp trade, but somewhat aggressive in the account that I'm using it, deploying it, and then we'll see what happens down here at 72, where I expect a tradable low down there, but I like to see reversals. The other thing I like to use is when RSI and Bitcoin gets below 30, I tend to layer in. But I did that back here and it ended up being really early. So I got some painful spot positions that may be on, again, and they're not, I say painful, it just means they're underwater. I'm deploying a lot of my capital in Bitcoin these days. But that's another thing I do. But I would want to see a reversal down here at 72 or wherever it shows before I scale in on that degree. So it's better to talk about that when we're there. We're not there yet, right? Right now we're playing a small aggressive setup, and then I'm going to be shorting. If we do get up 96 level, I'm going to be short when the setup is right, or expect to be. I shouldn't say I'm going to be short because I'm tighter on my shorts than my longs because there's a natural bid in most markets. But I would expect a 1-2 to come out of here or an AD, but that will take me down here. So I'll be trading in. I expect to be shorting into 72. While I'm layering into longs at that region, right? So shorting the 90s, longing the 70s is what I expect to be. But we'll see. And again, everything will be done carefully, watching reversals, price structure, and all of that stuff. Let's see your next question. So hopefully that clarifies, Michael. Let me know if I need to go into that a little bit more. What should happen to be still in bull market? We need moving over above 96, but unfortunately, again, I was really clear. This is corrective, so move over 96 just means B. I'm just saying it's really low probability to get up here. Seriously, this can morph into diagonal. So again, diagonals are 5 waves, where Bs are 3 waves. So I would need to see 5 waves over 96K. Unfortunately, that will be a diagonal, which is nearly invalid already, and so low probability. So everything I see here says a continued bull market is low probability. That's why I say I have the leaning. But again, you asked a question, I gave it to you. Getting over 96 is not enough. We can get to 100 and then not break the all-time high quite easily. Again, like I gave that scenario, and some of the people that follow the averages believe that scenario, which I think it's a reasonable from an Elliott Wave perspective as well. That but in this situation, I would expect 72 to 100, and then everyone's super excited, right? And when we get to 100 to over 100, people are going to be excited again, right? And then they're going to lose their shirt again. That's what I expect, but we'll again, I'm not predicting it for so much as that's what I see. So what would it take to be in a bull market? 5 waves over 96, leading diagonal over 96. That is not a reliable expectation, unfortunately. So it's just shake it off as low probability and manage your risk is all I'm saying. Like, and if the setup is right for getting to, if you're not subscribed, it's you may not get it early enough, but if I have the time frame, I do post them out to Twitter. If the setup is there, I'm not going to argue against it. Let's go to 140, right? But there's setup for that does not exist right now. It's not there. I don't see it. So it's not that I don't see it. It just isn't there. Can the market shake and rattle and form it? Sure, absolutely. Markets can do anything, but there's no tradable setup in my view that will take it to 140 right now at this point in time. All right, any other questions? All right, I mean, just again, be honest about your positioning, your risk, and all of that. A lot of people are dishonest traders, and that they think they can handle the next bear market, and then they get into it. What happens to those folks? They sell at the lows basically because they have had enough, and that's the sort of the worst place to be. I mean, we don't want to be selling at the lows. We want to be buying when the ultimate lows come into play, and we want to have our capital in a good spot to where we can do that. So that's why I took off most of my stuff. It's preservation for better days ahead, which those days may be far from where we sit today. All right, so that's Bitcoin and Ether, 2 setups. Those are long. We're gonna go through more setups. See, let me get to my notes. All right, so I gave you that, and then I have a short setup in crypto. but it's not now present this week. It may come in the next couple weeks. It's almost the same thing as where I want to short Bitcoin. And you know what? I haven't looked at this thing, and this is SUI. I haven't looked at this thing. Sorry, let me do something here. No, I see what I did. I got my thing stretched way off the screen. Let me get rid of that SUI BTC there. So this actually could be a long setup, but I am short SUI from a long-term perspective because because it topped in ABC. It's disaster. You know, this was like a darling of the early bull market. Triple bottoms are never ultimately hold. People trade them. I do day trade them sometimes, but in this context, it's not going to hold from what I can tell. But it is set up right now to come back to, looks like it when I look at the micro. So you could trade it if you want, stop the low. But my main intent here is, and I am partially short, is to add to my shorts around the $2 region. So it probably happens about the time Bitcoin gets to 96. I do want to see a rejection out of it. So I'm giving this way early. It's not going to happen this week. It's probably going to happen at least 2 weeks from now, is my guess. If it's earlier, great, because that means Bitcoin is probably at 96, and I'm taking that trade off. But yeah, watch for that around $2. Again, I'm partially short, but want to get more short. And when that happens, it'll be a top in this 4. So we'll have a lot more trading to do in taking SUI down. It looks like, at least looks like for now. But yeah, one setup at a time. See, I got this all messed up. 3 is there, 4 is there, and then 5 is at $1. So short at 2, long at, I don't want to say long at $1. I don't want to be long this, but taking this off the short around $1 is what I see. So that's that. So there's 2 long setups, 1 Bitcoin, 1 Ether, and the short setup in SUI. We've got a long potential in APLD. This is a stock that I will say readily, though I have had a difficult time nailing, it's been very profitable for me. So that's how do you become profitable when you don't nail something? Well, it's good trade location. I talked about that this week on our board because I was short Bitcoin up until yesterday. On a very short-term trade, got out of it profitably, but the market took me out at my stop. And that's just, again, that works when you have a good trade location. And so in APLD, this is a good location, I believe, because we have a decent setup, wave 1, comments 2, and I think this is looking less likely this 4 based on when I look at it with the action that's outside of regular trading hours. It looks more like a clear wave 1, where right now it looks like a wave 4 when I don't have that data in there. This data set doesn't have the outside regular trading hours. And so I expect to pull back in the coming week, and it's roughly about 24 is the ideal entry. I'm going to be scaling in through, well, actually, I don't know what I'm going to do with shares yet, but I did short some puts options yesterday. Again, for those that don't know, shorting a put is bullish, buying a put is bearish. So I've shorted puts to take in the premium. I don't know yet whether I'm going to add shares to it personally, but around 25 is about right. Stop at the low, but its support is roughly about 22.80. Again, I don't have outside regular trading hours. It's sort of needed to get support, but it's about 22.80 roughly. But I would be safe and just use the outside regular trading hour low wherever that is. It's slightly lower than what I have here. So that's a pretty good setup, and the target is about 55. So it's a good double and a half roughly if the trade does work. And again, I remind you that not every trade works. It's just simply trading skew, which is minimizing your risk and then catch a runner when it works. That's trading in a nutshell to me, unless you're a scalper. The next one is Iris Energy, Iron. Both of these guys started out as, APLD started out as a Bitcoin data center provider, Bitcoin mining data center provider. Well, now they've kind of turned into an AI, so it's questionable these are even really invested in crypto. I haven't looked at their reports and all that stuff. But the reason these guys are bullish still is because they're not in crypto anymore or not in it as wholesale as they were before. So right now, Iris Energy over 40 is probably going up versus getting another wave, another low. So I need to watch it this week. But even if it does breach over that, and I mean in 5 ways, we should get a pullback before go time. It's more convincing if it breaks over this 4, because this is the proper 4th in the C. That's usually the more proper resistance level. That is 48.90. But you know, there's a lot of ways to trade this. So see if it starts to breach 40. Buy a pullback is one way. Buy the lows here. I already have, again, I have a long-term long in Iris Energy, but I'm looking to add to it, basically average in, average out in this trade to my long-term position. Ultimately, I have support at 24. So you know, I just basically, I mean, to me personally, if you're trading this, it's probably best to, you know, give it a little bit looseness. I'm gonna get a triangle on here, you know, basically triangle in, you know, closer to the stop, which I don't want to be long aggressively. Long-term position, I don't care, but long aggressively below 24.80. So you can scale in, you know, around this zone. If it really gives a very more precise setup, which remains to be seen in the next week, you can get a little bit tighter. Of course, subscribers are the ones that are going to get that, because that price action isn't in front of me right now in terms of a tighter setup. So that's, you know, scale in this area. Take it off about 124 is the target. I would start scaling in out a little early. Again, I don't try to top tick or bottom tick anything in my trading. So that's Iris Energy. I probably garbled that a little bit, so let me know if there's questions. I'll come back to it. And then lastly is a short setup in SBET. You know, I talked about the bearishness in MNAV. All of these stocks, I mean, particularly the newcomers, are turning into dumpster fires. You know, and well, I don't want to say too much, because there are certain characters out there that have been contrary signals to me through the many years, and we've seen plenty of those folks coming out of the woodwork and becoming my contrary signals again. But SBET has a really, I was looking for a higher B. It looks like it's off the table now. We have 5 down, and so roughly between 10 and 11, I'll be watching for rejection. If it breaks over 11, it becomes more tentative as a short setup, at least in the immediate, and it may try again for that higher B wave. But as long as it stays under 1130, it's pretty clean. I just want to, you know, my short setups, I want to, where long setups, I tend to scale into them even when they're not reversing. Short setups, I like to see a rejection before I get into them. So I'm looking for a rejection around 10 to 11, you know, in the form of somewhat of an impulsive move down out of this resistance zone. And then what's the target? Let me recheck the target. It looks like I got this stretched out. Let's see, B, C. Oh, it's based on larger degrees, so hang on. Yeah, so ultimately 129 is the target, which I even have a hard time believing that. But in between, this 3 to 1 region looks very reasonable. I am using put options. Given that put options become untenable down in like $1 stocks, I'll probably get it off early, but that's basically, you know, probably using a strike price of around 13 is my guess, but I won't know until I get there. And then of course, implied volatility needs to be low, or I will be spreading it. So it'll be a put spread if the implied volatility is high, but that's basically my intent if it does set up properly. So that's where I'm at with that. All right, so that's it. 6 setups. Long Bitcoin, long Ether, short SUI, long APLD, long Iris Energy, short SBET. And I'll take questions before. It's a pretty short webinar, and I'm okay with that unless you guys want to use my time up for with questions. Is there a short ETF for SBT? I would be surprised if there is. I do not like leverage ETFs. I've said that over many months. I do use them occasionally when I have a play I want to make in a account that I have that does not have options capability. But I would be surprised if there's a short ETF on SBT. I've talked at nauseum about how poorly leveraged ETFs are constructed. I am still party to a lawsuit on the blow up of XIV on the day called Armageddon or Volmageddon, if you guys remember that day. And that is because these funds are poorly constructed, and yes, they can blow up completely on you. And there's other problems with them. Their decay is obfuscated. People don't like options, and they realize they're buying something worse when they buy leveraged ETFs, poorly constructed, very bad math involved in them. I can go on and on and on. So be careful in those products. Again, I'm not saying I never use them, but I use them very infrequently. But I doubt there's one on SPET. I mean, they tend to be on big caps, not on tiny dumpster fire stocks like this. All right, it's Iron, not Iris, but I thought they called themselves Iris Energy, or did they change their name? Iron? Did they change their name to Iron? Anyway, it's IREN as a symbol, yes, but I thought it was Iris Energy. Maybe they've changed their name. Happy to be corrected, but yeah, IREN is the symbol. Any other questions? Going once, going twice. Short webinar today. All right, that gives me time to try to get the video up. Since you guys are giving my time back, I will try to do that as much as I can before I have to leave the house. If I can't get it done, then it'll be out later this evening. Going once, going twice. All right, I'm hanging up, and I will see you guys out there. And have a great trading week, and have a great Christmas if you celebrate.